So unfortunately today I woke up to the news that Lil Peep passed away at the age of 21. He ended up having an overdose on stage, and before this video even starts, I want to say condolences out to Lil Peep, his family, and all his fans. This is a really unfortunate thing to happen, and honestly, I'm at a loss for words, to be completely honest. So with the death of Lil Peep brings up the question of drugs in hip-hop, and drugs and what kind of role they play in hip-hop culture. And recently, a lot of people have been bringing up the topic that we need to get drugs and we need to get all this stuff out of hip-hop, and it only seems to come in the wake of Lil Peep's death. And this seems to have been kind of, I guess you could say, a wake-up call to the community, and a lot of people now are really just wondering about drugs and talking about them and how we need to get them out of the hip-hop community in general. And the first thing I want to say to that is drugs and opiates are more than a problem in hip-hop. It's something that has been sweeping the nation, and I live in New Jersey where this is a huge problem. We have one of the biggest opioid problems in the United States. I have family members that have gone through this. I have friends that have gone through this. Opioids are no joke, man. Opioids will take your life from you. They will turn you into a different person, and honestly, they will kill you. I've seen people die from this. It's honestly not really a joke, and unfortunately, Lil Peep has died from opioids, and this is what happens, and it's really sad to see. And this brought me back to the reason I like hip-hop, and the reason that we like hip-hop is because it's so real. And the people who want to take opioids and take all that stuff out of hip-hop, that's making hip-hop not real, and that's taking away from what hip-hop is. Hip-hop is real. It's about talking about real things going on in real life, and unfortunately, everything going on in real life isn't always that good. In this case, the opioid problem that has been sweeping America, and mostly it seems to happen in poorer places, and unfortunately a lot of these rappers do come from harsh and poor places where the opioid problem is a real problem. And we even heard people like 21 Savage talk about how they use lean and how they use Xanax and stuff like that to numb the pain of coming from these bad places. 21 Savage has seen his friends shot in front of him. They've had all these problems. They have all this crazy shit going on in their life that just the average person couldn't even really comprehend, and they use drugs as a form of escape, and it is a way to kind of, you know, get away from that. And that is real, and that's kind of why I like hip-hop, because people are talking about real shit. A lot of people can relate to this music as well, and that's why hip-hop is so popular. A lot of people can relate to the real shit that these guys are saying, and sometimes it even stops these people from taking drugs because they know someone else out there is going through the same thing. And honestly, it gets a lot of people through the day, and it makes people escape through that hip-hop music. There are obviously rappers who fake doing drugs and they fake doing all this shit to be cool, and we've seen Future talk about this in the past where he says he's not doing nearly as many drugs as he's saying, and he does it so people out there can relate to the music more, yada yada yada. And honestly, I think a lot of people know these things, and I think a lot of people know that some of these guys are fabricating what they are saying, and I think it's important to know that a lot of these guys aren't doing nearly as many drugs as they're saying, but in some cases they actually are. If you look at Lil Peep's Instagram before he died, he was going on and on about how he's addicted to drugs, and his new album is even called Come Over When You're Sober. He was doing multiple things that were cries for help, and he really had a problem, and he recognized that he had a problem, but we normalized this so much in the culture that we didn't really do anything, and now it's really too late to do anything, which is just very, very unfortunate. And then this goes into people blaming rappers for when kids start getting into these drugs, and people start listening to this music and then thinking, oh, drugs are cool because such and such is doing these drugs, I should go out and do these drugs. And honestly, I think that's a really black and white way to look at it, and if you know anything about the world, most things are not black and white. There's normally somewhere in the middle. I don't think rappers should be role models. In some cases they can be, and if you want to be a rapper and a role model, then go for it. We got the Chance the Rappers out there, the Kendrick Lamars out there, people who are really good people and doing things for the community and just being overall role models. But I don't think every hip-hop artist has to do that, and I think to hold them to that standard would be a little bit ridiculous. Cameron, when once talking about an interview with Bill O'Reilly, he asked him, well, what do you think about all these kids doing drugs and getting tattoos because of your music? And him and his friend pretty much replied and said, I'm out here, I'm making the best out of a bad situation. I was born into a really shitty situation where these things are a reality. All this stuff I'm rapping about and talking about it, it's a reality around me, and there is a lot of truth to that. He is a CEO of a company. He was doing a lot of big things. He was getting himself out of a bad situation. And if there's one thing that kids and one thing that anyone should really take away from the music, isn't the fact that he's doing drugs or the fact that he's, you know, being violent or whatever you want to criticize him for. It's the fact that he made it take himself out of a bad situation. And if you want to be a role model to someone and you want to take the good qualities out of someone in rap, that's what you can do. A lot of these guys who are talking about and apparently promoting drugs, what they're doing is taking themselves out of a bad situation. And if you want to take anything away from their music, it should be that rather than something like, oh, Xanax is cool. Honestly, I think people need to start taking more personal responsibility, and if you're a child, I think their parents need to take more responsibility. As a parent, you should be really monitoring what your kids are listening to, and if your kid's listening to Lil Pump and starting to think Xanax is cool, maybe you should do, you know, parenting. But once again, not everything is that black and white. I don't think every parent out there can really 24/7 monitor what their kid is watching. It's just the unfortunate truth that opioids are a serious problem, and a lot of people right now with the death of Lil Peep are trying to make this out to be a hip-hop thing, and honestly, it is so much more than that. The opioid problem is seemingly something that's going to be continuing in America for a very long time, as a lot of people are getting addicted to these pills, and there's multi-million if not billion-dollar companies that make money off getting people addicted to these drugs. It's much simpler to say, oh, we should just get drugs out of hip-hop, but honestly, drugs are a real problem in the real world, and hip-hop is just a reflection of that. But those are just my opinions, guys. Let me know what you think down in the comments down below. Honestly, I'm really just at a loss for words with everything that happened today. Lil Peep was actually on my top 5 artists to blow up recently. I thought he was going to be a huge star. I was a really big fan of his music, and honestly, this hit me more than I thought it would. But like I said, let me know down in the comments down below what you guys think. If you like the video, hit the like button. If you dislike the video, hit the dislike button. And if you're new, how about you subscribe? But yeah, guys, this has been Throwaway, and as always, peace out.
Bitch, don't send no DMs. I said when I count checks, bitch, don't send me no